Welcome to the lecture on how to embed PHP in the HTML code. So if you go to the material folder, you will find PHP language basics. Open this folder and you'll go to example 1. That's what we're going to see in this lecture, how to embed PHP tags in HTML. So if you go to the example folder, open the deliverables file and also open the logical flow of the example. So we're going to do the same way what we have done previously. Deliverables are basically your files that we'll be creating, and logical flow are basically the logics or the concepts that you'll understand for each files. Okay, so before you write any of the code, make sure your amps are running and you are able to access the local host. So we're going to check quickly that you're able to access amps. Okay, and then you know where your amps is installed. So quickly open that. Okay, so your amps is installed and you have a www folder. If you're on Mac, you will have the same folder, so you should be able to access that folder. So I'm going to create a folder here and I'm going to say language. Okay, so all the exercises that we're going to do part of this section will be in the language folder. Okay, so I'll minimize this and you open your Sublime. Okay, so we're going to start building these programs now. So make sure you understand what you're building. So I have my browser, I have my Sublime, and I have the logical flow of the examples and the file names I'll be using to creating these files. So it's very clear what I'm doing now. So first let's understand how to embed HTML code and display the PHP. Okay, so for this we will create an HTML template first, and after that we will start embedding our PHP. So I'll show you how to create an HTML template for the first time. The next time onwards, we're going to reuse that in our next lectures. So let's create our HTML. Head tag. I'm going to put a comment here, sample 1. Okay, so I have my basic HTML here. Let me save this. So if you go to www folder, go to language folder, and I'm using the same file name, HTML tags in PHP1. So I've pressed Ctrl S on this Sublime. If you go to file, you have Ctrl S to save this file. Okay, so once you press Ctrl S, you save this file name, right? The thing that you're going to start writing is the HTML first. So that's the exercise now. So we'll finish writing the HTML. Let's view this file. Then we're going to embed the PHP code here. So for this, we go to language folder and I'll paste the file name. Okay, so you're able to see the h1 tag. If you go view source, so we're going to see all our code here. Right, so let's start embedding our PHP. So embedding PHP is nothing fancy here. You just use the same notation that you have learned, and then you can say hello world. Okay, so we haven't done anything. There's nothing new. We learned this, how to use the PHP opening and the closing tag, and how to use the echo method to print a text. So let's quickly verify this right there. So if you open up and check the source, you should be able to see hello world. Okay, so this is how you basically embed a PHP in HTML. Okay, so let's start creating new files. The second, we will use the same HTML and we will try to use PHP in creating the HTML attributes. So we're going to see that. So I'll show you more ways how you can embed PHP. So I'll say create new, save this file, copy paste, and then we're going to start developing the sample 2. And this comment is HTML comment, so don't get confused between HTML comment and PHP comments. So next, let's look at another way of creating the PHP and HTML. So previously we have just printed the text. Now we will print HTML code itself. Say sample 1. Let's use print this time. Okay, and we'll close the p tag. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm using the same PHP notation. I'm printing HTML tags from the print statement, and I'll see whether I'm able to see the paragraph or not. So for that, I have to, let's do the number 2 here, right? So you see the same text. Let's verify the tag. So you have the p tag here, right? Let's look another example in the same file. We'll use a short notation and we will print a horizontal line, right? Let me refresh this. Right, you have the horizontal line, you have the HR here. So you can use a short notation and the double quotes to print the HTML tags or whatever tags or just the normal text. And let's do another way. Let's write the same paragraph which is outside the HTML, right? You're writing outside the HTML and now you're using the PHP tags to print the text. Okay, so there are 2 ways. I'm going to talk about it. Sample 2. Okay, let's view this first. Okay, there's sample 2 and you can see the same output, right? So there are 2 ways. One, you can use print and in the text you can use the HTML tags, or you can just remove the XML tags and put it outside and you can just focus on PHP just to print the text. Okay, whichever way you feel comfortable while writing the HTML, both ways are fine, but highly recommend you put everything in one shot so you know what is the starting and the ending tag. Here if you have long PHP code, then you forget what is a top and the bottom HTML tags, but here you are very confident that when you look at the print statement, it's all coming up from your PHP code. Okay, so these are the 3 ways, basically different types how basically use the PHP to print your HTML. So let's go ahead and create the third one. We'll use another way. I'll show you one more way to do it. Let's create one more file. I'll copy everything as it is, right? And then we're going to move on to sample 3. And here we're going to do one thing. So let's print the paragraph. Right, and I'm going to have an attribute here called style ff00, right? I'm going to have a semicolon here. Okay, this is plain HTML. Let's view this first. So I'll change it to 3. So I have this text. Let's print this with PHP. Okay, so how you're going to do that? So let's comment this out first. Copy this one. If you want, you can give a try before you see how I'm actually doing it, and then you can compare it. So you can pause this video if you want, and you can start converting this and print this via PHP. Okay, so let me continue to do that. So notice that there's a double quote here, and we want that double quote to appear in the output. Make it to 3, and we want double quotes in the output. Okay, so we'll use a short notation here, and I'm going to embed them with the single quotes. Okay, so this looks fine. I have the double quotes coming up, and also I have single quotes embedding the double quotes, and I'm using the short PHP notation to print this. Okay, so these are one of the classic example wherein you want to get some values from the server and some values you just want to print it on the output. Okay, so this is one of the classic examples. So remember this example, you can just not even print the whole block of HTML code, but you can put this kind of snippets inside any of the values and you can print everything from there. Okay, so let's go ahead and look into another example. Let's look at example 4. Let's look at printing HTML in a different way. The previous one basically is printing with HTML attributes, so that's what we did. We printed the attribute. The fourth one is basically we'll use another way to print it. Okay, so let's do that. I'm gonna copy paste this. Let's do a sample 4. So I'm showing you different ways, right? You learned how to print text, how to print a tag, how to just print tag and text and just the tag. Use a HTML tag inside you print the PHP, then print the attributes of an HTML via the PHP. Okay, so we're going to use one more method to print the HTML tags and then print the normal text. So I'm going to use this example, right, and I'll do a reverse way. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so I'm gonna say this is sample 3. So sample 3 is printed, so let's say sample 4. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm printing the HTML tags with PHP and the normal text as it is. So let's verify this. Okay, use source and it should be fine. So this is another way wherein you can print the start and the end tags with PHP, and then whatever text that you have, if you have a long text, you just write it over. So PHP will take care of printing the right positions, right? It's not jumbling up the position, it's printing whatever you have set it to print in the same order. Okay, so let's look at the last example. So write a JavaScript alert with PHP. This is a very good example to understand how PHP really works in the background. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm gonna say copy this, Control N, Control S, paste this. Now you have the 5th file. I'm gonna use this. So we'll write an JavaScript. So we'll go to head section. Okay, so we'll place a script tag here. Okay, here I want to print an alert and I want to print the alert with the PHP. Okay, okay, so if you look at the double quotes and single quotes, I'm starting with the double quotes, ending with double quotes, then I'm using single quotes inside the method. Okay, and I'm using a method called alert, which is a JavaScript alert, which is a JavaScript function which is used to call the alert boxes on the web page. So when you run this program, you should see an alert saying that I'm coming from PHP. That's basically will be coming up from this piece of the code. Okay, right. So if you see the power of PHP, you can write the client-side scripting from PHP itself, and the client-side scripting will be executed by the browser. So PHP doesn't really care is it JavaScript or maybe Ajax or jQuery. Any of this code you can write it easily with the PHP, And it also help you to understand a concept that PHP is trying to put the output to the browser. It's not trying to execute anything. It's dumping all the data back to the browser, and once the browser get the data, the browser is trying to execute that data. And while it executing, you understand, oh, this is a JavaScript, so let me execute it as a JavaScript. Oh, this is basically an HTML, so let me print that output. So you see the difference between client side and server side. Even though it is server side, it doesn't really care what happens at the client side. And when it reaches to the client side, all the PHP tags has been removed, and you will see the script tags that is basically executed from the browser. If you say okay, you look at the code and you should able to see the script tag here. Okay, so you can even control anything that you want to print or take care at the client side from your PHP code as well, which means you can even execute a jQuery from your PHP code. You just have to print that jQuery, call that method in the JavaScript, and once it is return it back to the JavaScript, so before that output is shown to the user, the JavaScript or the jQuery will be executed. Okay, so that's where the 5 examples that we have discussed, right? And make sure you have this material downloaded. So all the programs that I've shown is already available in this 5 programs, so you can go and refer to them. Okay, so quickly run through it. So sample 1 was to just use echo and the PHP opening tag and the closing tag to print the data. We use sample 2 to print the HTML tags. Sample 2 also had only printing the HTML tags and printing only the text. The sample 3 we were printing the attribute with the PHP. Sample 4 we printed the HTML tags and all the text we just printed without an echo command. And sample 5 we printed the JavaScript with an alert coming up onto the web page, and all this basically happening from the PHP tag. So that were the 5 examples for this topic on how to embed PHP in HTML. Okay, so that's all for this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one.